Thanks for inviting an Englishman to Maine in February. Much appreciated. 89% of the companies that were on the Fortune 500 list in 1955 are gone. National Sugar, Zenith, Studebaker, disrupted out of existence. Did anybody get here today in a Studebaker? Anybody? And disruption just doesn't apply to corporations. Imagine you start your career as a surgeon, and along comes robotic surgery. Medicine has a history of changing its mind. Will surgeons be replaced by robots? Will traders be replaced by artificial intelligence? Will politicians be replaced by artificial lack of intelligence? Who knows? But what we do know is that disruption is a constant, and the thing that we can control is how we react to that disruption. And disruption just doesn't stop with old crusty companies. Goodbye Borders, goodbye Blockbuster. Yet there are some companies that manage to survive no matter what comes along. New competition, new technology. How is it that a company like Nike has survived for so many years? Do they make better shoes? Do they hire better shoemakers? What I'd like to explore today is what is the difference with those kinds of companies, how do they avoid disruption, and how you can use that insight to help you avoid disruption in business and in life. My journey of discovery started back in 1986. I left university at 21 and decided to travel the world. I was looking for some adventure, but I was also really fascinated with what made people tick, and I wanted to understand why were people motivated to do the things they did in the world. Along the way, I sold my round-the-world plane ticket and bought a motorcycle to get even closer to the people the countries I was traveling through, and I rode that motorcycle from Sydney, Australia, back to London, England. I passed through 16 fascinating countries along the way, and I made one crucial discovery. My revelation started in Aqaba, Jordan. This is me about 30 pounds lighter. After riding through the desert of Lawrence of Arabia, I stopped, I met a family, and that family invited me for dinner. And over hummus and pita bread, we talked about their lives, their family, and the food we were eating. The next day, I left Jordan, and I went to Israel via Egypt. And I got into Egypt, and by luck, I met a family, and that family invited me to come in for dinner. And I went for dinner, and over hummus and pita bread, we talked about life and their family and the food we were eating. And whilst I was in that moment, a light bulb came on in my head. Here are two families separated by a huge political divide and a giant Dead Sea. And yet we're talking about the same fundamental things. And as I traveled around the world, that reality repeated itself. Over and over, I met people and we talked about the same things. And I understood that they had the same motivations and the same desires. For example, we all want to feel successful, right? We all want to feel connected to each other. We all want to feel creative. And it's those motivational needs that connect us all together wherever you go in the world. And the science supports this. It's in our DNA. That creativity was the thing that allowed us to create tools to kill the woolly mammoth with our spears and bring him down. Our collaboration allowed us to chop up that woolly mammoth meat and cook it and share it to survive. And with time and research, what I've done is I've found that you can summarize these motivations in the world down into 12 different buckets. I've managed to put it together into this framework that we call the Motive Scape. The need to feel accomplished, the need to feel rebellious, the need to feel transformed. They're motivations that you see everywhere you go and everybody can connect with. Let me give you an example. Greek yogurt. Do you say yogurt? 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 Sorry. one of those. This is a chart that shows public conversations among 378,000 individuals about Greek yogurt. Who knew there were that many people talking about Greek yogurt? And in the Greek yogurt category, you can see that some of the people are talking about using the protein in Greek yogurt to accomplish their goals, right? Protein is good for you. It helps you achieve your athletic goals and your athletic performance. Some are talking about it to feel transformed. They want to go from fat to thin, and the protein helps you stay full up so you don't get hungry between meals. Some people are eating Greek yogurt because they want something more pure, less sugar in it. They want to put good stuff in their body. Some people are eating Greek yogurt because they want to nurture their children. They want to put something healthy in their children. So you can see we have different feelings and motivations around the same formula, around the same thing, this yogurt. And brands that have come into this category have done well by lassoing those different ideas. Chobani, for example, lassoed the idea of accomplishment. They got sponsored athletes in the Olympics, and they talked about how their yogurt can help those athletes perform with the protein. Faye, on the other hand, has really focused in on the foodies. They've marketed their yogurt as something that's much purer, much more natural. If you're a disrupted company coming into this billion-dollar category, there's still plenty of room for you to engage with people and their motivations. Maybe you might market your yogurt to help people that are trying to feel transformed, that are losing weight. Maybe you might market your yogurt to people that are looking after their kids as a family-friendly yogurt. But each time, there's the opportunity to connect with those fundamental needs that we have. Let me give you another example of a brand that's avoided disruption by staying connected to fundamental human needs. Brand Nike started in 1971. It was founded by Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, his track coach. Phil and Bill were very passionate about sports and helping people succeed in their athletic endeavors. Their first product was a shoe with a waffle sole. And the story goes like this. The Oregon track had put in artificial turf for the first time, and they needed a shoe that didn't have spikes. So Bill was sitting down one morning with his wife at breakfast, and he was thinking about this problem, and he was trying to work out, how can I create a shoe that will help my friends perform better? And his wife was making waffles, and the waffle popped out of the waffle iron, and the light bulb came on, and he went, hang on a minute, and he ran off, and he got a couple of cans of whatever you use to make urethane, and he poured them in his wife's waffle iron. And then he turned it over and bashed it out, and that turned into the waffle sole, which was the first shoe that really got Nike started. But man cannot live by waffle soles alone. It wasn't the innovation of the product, the how that they did that really mattered. What mattered was that Phil and Bill were always looking to work out how to help their customers succeed. Phil and Bill understood that's who they were as a company. So when the internet came along and mobile phones came along, they embraced it and they developed Nike Plus, a new way to help their athletes succeed. When online communities came along, they started hiring researchers to go into those communities to understand how do runners feel, what are they looking for, what are their unmet needs, so they can make those products. They even named the buildings on their campus after their favorite athletic stars. Last year was in the Mia Hamm building. It's a museum to the great soccer star Mia Hamm. They literally celebrate their stars in their campus. Nike's one of the biggest advertisers in the world, and yet they've reduced their TV and ad spend by 40% in the last 3 years. And they've done it because they've realized that increasingly they can put buzz into their products, they can do better research with their customers, and they can connect to them through the digital medium. They're not stuck on how they do what they do. They're always thinking about who are we and how can we connect with our customers' motivations. And the results speak for themselves. Nike's sales have grown and grown. Under Armour's come along, Nike's sales have grown. New technologies come along, Nike's sales have grown. Nike's avoided disruption by understanding who they are at their heart and staying connected to the souls of their athletes and the people that they serve. So you see, people don't buy what you make. They buy how what you make makes them feel. I later synthesized this concept into one simple idea. You can tuck this idea in the back of your head, and when you're looking to avoid disruption, you can pull it out again. Who before how? Who before how? Put the who you are, who is your company, what motivation are you serving, before how you make what you make. Let me give you an example of that. That surgeon we were talking about at the beginning of the story. It's not the scalpel that makes him who he is. It's his desire to serve society by curing people and making them better. If robotic surgery comes along, that surgeon needs to work out, how can I continue to serve what's in my heart and soul? How can I go out and continue to make people better? The same is true in the technology world. I remember being out at Motorola in Libertyville, Illinois, at their headquarters around 2006. And the iPhone had just come out. And they were on top of the world. They had the Razr phone. It was the hot thing. Everybody wanted a flip phone. You remember that? And a computer company had had the gall to come out with a telephone. And the engineers at Motorola were falling about laughing. They were like, who's going to buy a $500 phone with no keys? Well, Apple had the best quarter profits in their history last quarter. In fact, they had the best quarter profits of any company in the history of man. But it's got no keys. What Motorola didn't understand is that they weren't in the circuit board business, they were in the connections business. And when software came along that allowed people to use their technology to connect with each other better through the software, not through the hardware, they missed the boat. They couldn't avoid the disruption, they couldn't move their mindset because they didn't understand who they were. They were too tied up making phones versus trying to help people connect with their friends. Joseph Campbell, a famous anthropologist, brought this idea together. He studied this all over the world, although very cleverly he did it without having to ride a motorcycle. He saw these 12 basic motivations in all of the stories that we tell each other, from the foothills of Borneo to the highlands of the Himalayas. And those stories are stories we all understand, right? We all understand the story of the hero, the outlaw, the magician, the sage. Indiana Jones, for example, is the archetypal explorer. He's a stereotypical idea. We all recognize Indiana Jones. Captain Jack Sparrow is the archetypal rebel. When George Lucas wrote the script for Star Wars, he went to Joseph Campbell's writings. And what he did is he created his characters after these writings of Joseph Campbell that connect right down to our core motivational needs. Princess Leia, the lover. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the sage. Luke Skywalker, the hero. Luke's how is with his lightsaber. Vroom, vroom. His who is a hero on a mission to save the world. Who before how? When I worked at Leo Burnett, the advertising agency famous for Tony the Tiger and the Pillsbury Doughboy, we used to apply the same thing. Each archetypal character connected with our deeper motivational needs. The green giant is literally Mother Earth. Here she is, Mother Earth. Green giant isn't just about selling peas, it's about helping mothers nurture their children anywhere you go in the world. Green giant is just as popular in Penang as it is in Peoria. Harley Davidson. It's not just a motorcycle company, it's a company that helps you feel rebellious. Harley Davidson sells to dentists in the suburbs that are looking for something more exciting than a root canal. I actually bought a motorcycle last year when my hair started thinning. Don't tell anybody. So, who before how? We don't wake up in the morning and say, I need to feel this way, so who am I today? The who comes before the how. Companies don't wake up in the morning and think to themselves, what am I going to make today? They need to start with, who am I and what's my role in the world and what purpose am I serving? What motivational need am I trying to connect to? North Face is connecting you to that emotional need to feel adventurous. That's why they succeed. It's not just the stitching on the jacket. Stories before stores. connections before circuit boards, success before shoes, parenting before peas. Who before how. And the idea of who before how doesn't apply to companies. It applies to people in their careers. For example, I hired my son last summer to come and work at our company. And our company is a company of introverts. We're a bunch of nerdy data scientists. We're in the computer all day long, and we're analyzing data for our clients. We're trying to make our clients feel smarter. My son, this is my youngest son, like my wife, is super social. He's very outward going. He's very connected. He really enjoys engaging with people. So when he showed up at our company to do this fascinating project to analyze stock data against social data to predict quarterly earnings, he was completely miserable. The company that I built with my sweat, blood, and tears was exactly the wrong place for my son to be in. Because there wasn't a connection between what he cared about and what motivated him in life and the company that I developed. So you have to think not just who before how, but you before how as well. How can you make sure that as you go out into your careers, you're finding a company that connects with your desires and your purpose in life and the things that you want to do in the world? So, in business, what have we learned? People don't buy the things you sell. People buy the way those things make you feel. Motorola, Studebaker, Zenith, they all forgot that. They forgot who before how, and they were disrupted out of existence. Nike, Apple, Green Giant, they all understand at a very deep level who they are and what role they play in the world and how they're connected to it. We all know this. We know this in our hearts. We know this in our souls. We know this in our dreams when we wake up in the morning. We know who we are and we know what our purpose is in life. So just remember, if you want to avoid disruption, who before how. Thank you very much.